Hey guys, it's Destiny, and today we're going to be doing tier list review where we review the latest tier list updates and we all give our thoughts on them. I like doing these videos just so we can come as a community to talk about the most recent Star Rail character and just give our thoughts on characters we feel like should either go up on the tier list, go down, whatever it may be. And before we get into today's video, I would love to know if you guys are actually pulling for Mydei yourselves or if you're actually going to skip him. I know we do have Castorice and Anaxa coming up, so I know those two will be pretty popular choices when it comes to what players are going to be going for. And lastly, if you enjoy videos like these, do consider subscribing to see more content from me. And lastly, leave a like to support the video. Now, let's get straight into it. Alrighty, here we are with the latest tier list, and we are mainly going to just go over characters that of course got added, which in this case would be Mydei, and then of course any characters I feel like personally should go up or even go down on the tier list. So if we take a quick look, here we have Mydei, and he is tier 0 in MOC, tier 2 in Pure Fiction, and lastly tier 0.5 in Apocalyptic Shadow. So when it comes to his placement in MOC, personally, I do agree with this as he does perform very nicely in MOC. When I did do my testing, he is able to nicely take advantage of no sustain or a sustain team due to the fact that he has the ability to continuously revive himself. As long as he is in the Vendetta state, he will be able to revive himself, or rather survive a fatal blow, which allows him to have immense survivability and also adds, in my opinion, quite a lot of comfortability. So let's say a boss was really hard to face, but you did end up getting Mydei. He's able to withstand quite a lot of damage as a result. So even if a boss were to hit him super hard, he would still survive the fatal blow, as long as of course he is in the Vendetta state. And when it comes to his damage output, he of course is also able to deal quite a lot of damage. I have shown him off in a couple of showcases so far where he is either holding a signature light cone or he's not. One of my latest showcases, actually, it was my pulling video. I did test him out at E0 S0 with the free-to-play light cone Ninja Record Sound Hunt, and this light cone is a very nice free-to-play option on him. Of course, his signature light cone is really powerful on him, and I did personally test him primarily in the current Memory of Chaos that is catered around giving more energy to allies. So instead of the upcoming MOC, which the upcoming MOC does involve, I believe, increasing the HP of allies and also restoring HP, whatever it may be, it involves a lot of HP, which definitely seems very fitting for a character like Mydei, since he is of course an HP scaler. But in the case of the current MOC, he is still able to perform very nicely and get very low cycle clears, whether you are using a signature light cone or not. And when it comes to, of course, his teams, now since he is HP scaling, he is able to nicely take advantage of some of the supportive capabilities from some of the supports we do have. For example, he's really nice with Tribbie, he's really strong with Sunday, you can use him along Remembrance Trailblazer, you can use him along Jiao Cho, there's Pela, there's Sparkle, there's Bronya, and so on. So he does have options when it comes to what supportive option you want to use alongside him. And as I mentioned earlier, you can also go the no sustain route due to the fact that he is able to survive fatal hits as long as he's in the Vendetta state. And because of that, assuming that Mydei is primarily attacked, then of course you can just highly amplify him with 3 other supportive characters on the team. Or if you wanted to experiment potentially with a dual DPS team, you can do 2 DPSs and then 2 supportive options. But I've primarily personally tested out Mydei alongside multiple other supports, as you guys can see on screen. So overall, I would say his damage output, especially when it comes to MOC, is worthy of the tier 0 placement. The only negatives I would say regarding Mydei is due to the fact that, of course, you can't control who he's attacking with Kingslayer be King. When it comes to Godslayer be God, which is when he consumes 150 charge, you are able to control that with his ultimate, as his ultimate will let you pick the next designated enemy to be hit by Godslayer be God. So that is a very nice touch that they added to his kit. But when it comes to Kingslayer be King, you can't really control this. And I know some would prefer to control this, but in the case of Kingslayer be King, I noticed most scenarios he seems to be attacking the proper enemy. But of course, let's say there are 2 elite enemies on the field and you would prefer him to attack one over the other. You can't really guarantee this from what I've seen with Kingslayer be King due to the fact that he does attack automatically. That is definitely something to consider when it comes to his playstyle overall. But I would say just through my testings I've done so far, I would say he definitely is a very strong contender for a high tier when it comes to MOC, which has definitely been a trend with a lot of our 3.0 and beyond characters. Literally the first row of tier 0 here has like Laya, Mydei, the Herta, and Tribbie, which have all been 3.0 and 3.1 characters. So I'm really curious if this trend is going to keep up, where a lot of these characters end up being in tier 0. And of course, a lot of these characters right here, all 4 of these characters are very, very powerful characters when it comes to the role that they are able to do, whether it's a DPS or in Tribbie's case, of course, her supportive capabilities that she is able to provide. Really curious where Anaxa and Castorice are going to end up, and if they actually end up shifting any of the characters up here. So once again, when it comes to Mydei though and MOC, I would definitely say he can be a contender for tier 0. I'd love to know what you guys think. The primary reasons I do say this is due to the fact of his damage output. And of course, another thing that I almost forgot to mention is that when he does use Kingslayer be King, and of course also Godslayer be God, he is not consuming any skill points by doing this. So as a result, this now leaves the skill points for the rest of your team. So any of your supportive options may be able to use their skills a bit more often, which helps them get more energy, whatever it may be. So that's definitely a nice plus that he does have, as you can nicely take advantage of this. So I did want to point that out, of course, as well. And depending on what team you use him on, he'll be able to attack pretty frequently as well. So overall, I'm not too surprised by his placement. When it comes to Pure Fiction and Apocalyptic Shadow, for Apocalyptic Shadow, I think this placement is okay. When it comes to Pure Fiction, I was able to get over 30,000 points with him. I would love to know what you guys think about his other placements when it comes to Pure Fiction and Apocalyptic Shadow. I think in Pure Fiction, we'll have to wait and see regarding that one. Maybe he can be higher, maybe his placement is fine. For Apocalyptic Shadow, I think that placement's good. That is the Apex character placement. Also, the Herta is now tier 0 in all categories, which the Herta is just an incredible DPS. And I do think, especially when it comes to just her free-to-play friendliness, this is also a huge plus, as she could be used alongside characters like Remembrance Trailblazer. You can use her alongside characters like Serval. You can use her alongside Little Herta, Argenti, and so on. There's multiple erudition characters that you can use alongside her. And then of course, when it comes to the supports, you have multiple options there as well. When it comes to more free-to-play friendliness, you can take a look at Remembrance Trailblazer, but of course you can also consider characters like Tribbie, Sunday, Robin, whatever it may be. Now for tier 0.5, now I do know we have a lot of characters here, but I would honestly say, and I have seen some people suggest this in the previous tier list, and after getting to test her out a bit more during this current MOC, I feel like I can agree. I do actually think Yunli can go up to 0.5. The reason I say this is just due to her performance, which I believe I should have gameplay playing right now. This is me playing with my Yunli. Now, of course, I can understand in the aspect of a no signature light cone Yunli, but we also have to account for the fact that none of these characters have signature light cones. But I would say Yunli still can qualify, in my personal opinion, for the 0.5 category. She is still able to perform very nicely. I was able to get a very nice clear with her in the current MOC against the Swarm bug, which is completely off element. So I was very impressed with her performance right there. So I do think maybe she can be in 0.5. I'd love to know what you guys think. If you guys think Yunli should be down in tier 1, or if she should go back to 0.5. They dropped her from 0.5 in 3.0, or maybe the end of 3.0. I don't exactly remember when, but she maybe could honestly go back up there. I do think she's still a pretty powerful DPS overall. And as for the rest of the list, so I do see that they have their eye on Kafka as well as Black Swan, which I can see why, due to the fact that we haven't really gotten much support at all when it comes to damage over time. I genuinely don't know what is going on with damage over time. And the reason I say this is because it feels like the Star Rail devs have primarily been focusing on every other playstyle but damage over time, which is kind of sad. I really want some more love here for damage over time. Maybe can we get another support for the playstyle, another damage dealer, whatever it may be. I do think damage over time really needs another character at this point. I know that Jiaocho does have the damage over time category, but I'm more so talking about a character that is like Black Swan or is like Kafka, where a huge part of their kit is focused on the factor of damage over time, if that makes sense. So I do think we just need another character that's highly specialized maybe in the playstyle, and I'm not really sure when we're gonna get that, since Black Swan released in very early 2.0. And then we also have Kafka, who released in 1.x. So we're just now waiting, I guess, for the next character. But I can see why they're currently being watched. They might potentially get dropped. And this could just be due to the factor of they're not really getting as much support as the other play styles, which can factor into their performance in comparison to other playstyles. For example, if you're comparing it to like Aglaya, Acheron, the Herta, Mydei, whatever it may be. So I can understand why they're currently being watched. And another character I personally really want them to take a look at or just consider maybe bumping her up is Xueyi. And I've been saying this now, I think, for a couple tier lists due to the fact that I do feel like Xueyi can be a bit higher, especially because of the fact that we did get Fugue, which Fugue very nicely synergizes with a character like Xueyi. And I personally was a bit surprised that Xueyi did not go up after the release of Fugue, considering that you can use Xueyi alongside Fugue, alongside Ruame. And if you did go hypothetically no sustain, you could consider a character like Harmony Trailblazer. But if you did do sustain, then of course you can look at a character like Lingsha or Gallagher. But in the case of Xueyi, I do think she can be a bit higher. I've also been seeing some nice Seele clears. So in the case of Seele, I know she's an iffy one for a lot of people. Some people think she should be in this type of category, but I can see her potentially being a bit higher, which if I'm not mistaken in the changelog, they did mention that Seele actually performed nicely, if I'm not, let's see. Yeah, so Seele did get added to the watch list and he did display amazing performance this phase, but she is used by very few players. So they're just keeping an eye on Seele, which I think they're mainly keeping an eye on her for Apocalyptic Shadow. Yeah, okay, so it seems like they're mainly keeping an eye on her here, but I can see them keeping an eye on her even maybe in MOC, especially that we did get the Swarm bug. I do think they should take a look at Seele just to see if she potentially can go a little bit higher, but we'll have to wait and see regarding that, especially since we are about to get 3.2 and we would have to see the impact that a character like Castorice makes when it comes to just damage potential overall, which I'm pretty excited to be able to test her out pretty soon. Just see how I like her and my overall thoughts on her. And then of course Anaxa as well. I'm pretty excited for both of these characters. But real quick, when it comes to just tier 0 overall, I do agree with a lot of these placements. And I know we have a lot of characters in tier 0. We have 3 here in the DPS, 3 in Amplifier. But I do think honestly that it's okay for right now. Once again, I do think once we get Castorice and Anaxa, we can maybe get a better idea of how the tier list might shift, or maybe even in 3.3 we can see. I am curious just how they're going to go when it comes to how MOC is going to be. If HP will continue to rise, or maybe they might stay where it is right now, or even lower it a little bit. We'll have to wait and see regarding that, but I am very curious as I can end up changing some of the placements here on the tier list. When it comes to 0.5, I think a lot of these placements are fine as well. A lot of these characters have pretty nice value when it comes to their specific niche. When it comes to a character like Jade, when it comes to being a support DPS, she can nicely be used alongside Herta, which I believe Jade actually did go up thanks to Herta. Hunt March 7th is a very valuable 4-star option, which I have recommended building her since she released due to the fact that she can nicely be paired on follow-up teams, for example, with Fei Xiao. But you can also, of course, make Super Break March, which is super fun as well. I've had a lot of fun experimenting with that one, where March is the main damage dealer, and she's able to take advantage of Super Breaks. So that's also very fun. And I do like that she has that you can go multiple routes when it comes to building her, when it comes to a crit build or a break build. Topaz is still a nice option on a follow-up team, for example, with Fei Xiao. And then when it comes to Xiao Cho, he's a very nice partner with Acheron. You can, of course, use him as a general debuffer as well, though, due to the fact that he is able to inflict vulnerabilities onto enemies, which can increase your team's damage output. So as a result, he can end up being used alongside some other DPS characters as well. For example, a character like Yunli. And then we have Fugue. Fugue is awesome when it comes to our Super Break team. She can nicely be used with Rappa. You can nicely use her alongside Boot Hill, Xueyi, and so on. RMC, very, very nice free-to-play option when it comes to the 100% action advance they'll be able to provide. Mem support, which provides true damage, and of course a lot of damage dealers can nicely take advantage of true damage. So because of that, RMC is a very powerful free-to-play option that a lot of players can take advantage of, and that I also personally recommend building if you haven't already. Gallagher is a great 4-star option when it comes to him being able to be paired on Brig teams, but also of course other teams as well. He can be used just as a general healer on team comps, and has been on numerous banners so far, as well as I believe there was an opportunity to also get him for free if I'm not mistaken. So he's a pretty nice option too. Huohuo is great when it comes to the energy she's able to provide. Her being able to give more energy for allies can also give more energy to the supports on the team. So let's say you are using Sunday alongside Mydei. Huohuo is able to get Sunday closer to using his ultimate, which now results in Mydei getting even more energy from Sunday. That's also something to keep in mind when it comes to using Huohuo on teams. And of course, Huohuo, Sunday, and Robin, just in general, is a pretty strong core when it comes to being able to highly amplify the damage output of a damage dealer depending on who you're using. Of course, in the case of Robin, she can be substituted for Tribbie depending on what the team is. And of course, there are other supports you can consider as well. And then for Aventurine and Linkship, both are great sustain options. And of course, I believe the tier list can have some changes. I have mentioned some of the primary ones I would recommend, which is Yunli potentially going up, also keeping an eye on Seele, revisiting Xueyi, and so on. So I'd love to know, when it comes to the tier list, do you guys agree with most of the placements, or do you actually disagree with some of these placements? And we do have to keep in mind this is considering in characters at E0, S0, so I would just love to know all of your thoughts. I guess for final thoughts, Mydei's cool, he's awesome. If you guys watch my summoning video, I was pretty excited to pull him. So I think he's great. I'm very excited to try out Castorice and Anaxa very soon, and also give my thoughts on them. And I'd love to know if you guys are pretty excited for Castorice and Anaxa as well. I'm very, very excited for the upcoming live stream. Cannot wait to see what the anniversary has in store for us. I'm hoping we get a lot of rewards. That'll be it though for today's video. I hope you guys did enjoy. And if you did, do make sure to subscribe, leave a like to support the video, and I hope to see you all next time. Peace.